How many things have you really wanted to do but just never started or stopped pretty soon after getting into it? Well, I hope that this YouTube channel doesn't become one of those things for me, but a reason that this happens that's not discussed nearly enough is a fear of success. That's right, not a fear of failure, where you're afraid you're not going to get to where you want to go, but doing exactly that and then having to deal with all of the things that success brings along with it. From what I've seen, this fear of success is a lot more subconscious and not really something that people look out for and try to mitigate. It's just there in the background and coming out at certain points, causing you to lose motivation or making you want to give up sooner than you should. That's why it's even more important to know how it manifests and keep it at bay. Now, when I say fear of success, I don't mean that you're afraid of the money, the fame, the social status, that success might bring, because obviously those are things that drive a lot of people in the first place to have such aspirations. Instead, I'm talking about the moments when you start thinking about what happens when you reach the destination and all the things that you will have to add on to your workload to keep going and keep progressing and keep growing. A very simple example of this is working on a startup, right? At the beginning, you're super pumped, you think it's awesome and can gain a bunch of traction. But then you start thinking about what happens, once it does become popular. How you have to deal with all of the customer support issues or marketing the product and so on and so forth. A fear of success can also really come from being afraid of increased scrutiny from others, whether that's competitors or even friends and family. Because a lot of the times everyone is going to have a say about what you're doing and you're just afraid of how they're going to react when you show them or release your product. You can also start developing this pressure to perform, right? So say you're a YouTuber and you initially have this plan of just making 20 videos and seeing how it goes. But along the way, one of them blows up or gets a ton of views. And you can oftentimes start fixating on that one video and trying to figure out what caused that success and trying to replicate that and just spending all of your time on that rather than on your initial plan of seeing how it goes. Finally, as you grow any business or hobby and start seeing success, you will have more responsibilities, right? You're gonna have to start taking on more people, start delegating tasks. It's just not possible to, sustain a growing business by yourself. And this can really take the fun out of what you're doing and why you started in the first place. And on a more personal note, when you think of what could be, you might just feel like you don't deserve it, right? Does what I'm saying and doing matter so much that I'll have thousands of people engaging with it? Can I consistently give them something meaningful and useful to them? All these thoughts about your longevity, how long you can keep this going for, your utility are bound to pop up. And these can be debilitating at worst and discouraging at best. So how can we overcome them? I think there are two major parts to quieting these thoughts. First, figure out if they're actually reasonable, right? I know we all have tons of seemingly amazing ideas, but there genuinely are some things that if we were to fulfill, we would not enjoy the changes that it would make to our lifestyle and the way it would just impact us. And that's why it's really important to check in with that passion and that desire and figure out if you're really okay with sticking with this thing, whatever may come. Some things, no matter how attractive they seem or how perfect you seem for them, just will not excite you enough to go through everything that they might bring. I have examples of these things that I've given up on both sides of that spectrum. For example, I love music and wanted to try to make my own. But after a while, I realized I just don't have enough passion to really learn everything about it and continue to produce music even when no one's listening. On the other hand, something I seemed perfect for was entrepreneurship, right? I love coding, I love building things, and I have a bit of marketing experience. I did give it multiple shots, but once I was in the weeds, I realized that if this idea did really take off, I wouldn't be comfortable with how my responsibilities would change and how the pressure on me would increase. And so I quit. I think for any serious idea, you have to do your research and figure out how your life might change and see if you're okay with that. While for some ideas it might deter you, it can also be the greatest motivating factor for others. This channel is something like that for me. I know what can come with growing the channel, but I love the writing and presenting aspect of it, and I also enjoy the editing and technical aspects. So if you figure out that a fear is not reasonable because you genuinely have so much interest in doing something, it can also be your North Star that you can look up to whenever the tough times hit. Once you've laid the foundation that you do want to go on this journey, regardless of the good, the bad, the ugly, you can do and incorporate small things that can nudge you away from these pessimistic thoughts and this fear whenever it may arise. The first thing you should do is define what you want and make that the only thing you measure yourself by. When you have a set of goals for yourself and the meaning of success is based on exactly what you set out, it can be a lot easier to deal with and ignore all the commotion that comes with growing. It's almost like setting cruise control and maintaining the pace that you want, regardless of whether there's no cars around or there's people tailing you, pushing you to go faster. Another way to take the bite out of this fear is to note down the things that are causing it and develop contingency plans for if they become a reality. So again, sticking with the YouTube example, maybe something you're afraid of is as you get more subscribers, what if they start expecting higher quality videos and better editing from you? By the way, if you define what you want to measure yourself by, this shouldn't be that much of an issue, because what will actually matter is how you want to see the quality increase over time. But regardless, when this thought comes up, you can always remind yourself that you can hire an editor down the line to make it easier on yourself. Thinking about things that will lessen a potential roadblock will make you more comfortable with them and reduce that stress that they bring with it. So if any of these thoughts pop up, just note them down and think of ways you can eliminate that fear in the future if they ever do come to life. And finally, something else you can do once you've got going is remind yourself that you felt these exact same thoughts at some point in the past and that you did overcome them. It's super common to have these recurring reasons and these recurring fears, but whenever you remind yourself of how you kept going, even when they popped up in the past, will help you continue that momentum. These three are the ones that have worked the best for me, but I'm sure there's a lot of other ones, so if you've had to deal with the situation, let me and the community know how you did it in the comments below. It's important to accurately identify what you're feeling and why your thoughts are taking on a certain pattern. I think a lot of people might feel that they just have a fear of failure when they have these kinds of thoughts that I've described, but in reality it's a fear of success. And being able to correctly label that can help you take better steps to address that fear. And I've had to recognize this and figure out ways to quiet my brain, and those are the tips that I've given so far. So I hope that this video helps you do the same. Feel free to comment your thoughts on this topic and how you struggled with it, or maybe you conquered it, and let me and the community know. Like this video if you did, and subscribe for future content.